for the rest of the UK. But will he listen? Of course not. The man he's a mouthpiece for this oligarchical, elitist, we rule the world kind of ruling class that have been running the British Empire for a very long time, and are very skillful at doing so. Which is tragic, because there is another tradition in British history. There's the British Empire, the phrase being coined by one of my heroes, John Dee, was actually intended to be a liberal and progressive empire right from the beginning. With the Elizabethan Renaissance, it was supposed to be a kind of revival of wisdom. Otherwise, there's absolutely no point in having the project. If it's simply going to be a regressive, destructive, enslaving, cruel kind of project from the beginning, then, Trithemius, who was the inspiration for John Dee, who argued that each nation has certain angels that guard it. He was a Christian Kabbalist occultist at a high level, Trithemius, here in Europe. Well, the angels would never have supported the rise of Britain if we were just going to end up with a sort of elite arrogance like the Boris Johnson conservative nations. And that's what is masked by their adoption of this one nation rhetoric. The one nation rhetoric is completely false, because look, they've lost Northern Ireland. The voters of Northern Ireland rejected their bombast. They've lost Scotland. They've rejected them. An awful lot of voters elsewhere in the country have rejected them. In fact, as we've seen, the majority of voters have rejected them. So, where's their right to rule in moral and political terms? It's non-existent. Okay, so I can only lament my dear fellow compatriots who love our country. I would say we, the Remainers, are the patriots. We know Britain's role is in Europe. I'm a graduate of the University of London. My colleagues have always been pro-European and federal in our outlook. The University of London is a federal institution. I'm proud to have been a graduate and to get my PhD there. It was set up by Jeremy Bentham and his friends who were progressive intellectuals in their own right. And in their day, they were fighting for liberal values and constitutionalism, which is what we're fighting for now. As an intellectual, I would say we have to do a lot of work to bring together these disparate progressive forces. The whole socialist tradition that Corbyn and his cohort work with, I don't know what's happened to the Marxist intellectuals of Britain. I mean, people use the term Marxist as if it's some kind of insult. My mother was a Marxist. She was a very clever woman. She was a graduate of the University of London. Through her and her contacts, I met many, leading Marxist intellectuals. And as a boy, as a young boy, listening to them in our home in Kemp Town, and always was puzzled. What is this thing, Marxism? How does it work? So, and when I studied at the University of London, I studied political philosophy in depth. Now, I've written critiques of aspects of Marxism and what was done with it in the revolutionary traditions of Stalinism and so on, and Maoism. Obviously, that wasn't what Marx saw. What I think is still valid of his critique of capital is how capital organises to buttress its self-serving power dynamic, irrespective of the effect on real living people. And what is so important about Das Kapital is Marx describes in detail the effects of poverty, the impoverishment of the people of England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland, taken from reports of the commission of the inspectors who used to go around the factories and visit people's homes and so on. They are shocking, the reports of poverty in throughout the UK at the time of the Industrial Revolution. Marx published that work in 1867, so it was based on all parliamentary reports up till then. And people should read what capitalism was doing and its ruthlessness. And I'm doing a commentary on that, and I'm reading out and then commenting on certain of these key passages, which you can listen to on my Green University website. Marx sweated blood to write that book, and everybody who is interested in a critique of oligarchical right-to-rule attitudes should study it and read it. It is still, important reading. what he left out and what Marx didn't achieve, and no intellectual can encompass everything, even Ken Wilber leaves out peace, in my opinion. I mean, I love Ken Wilber's work and he's a great thinker, but he leaves out the politics of knowledge. I mean, Chomsky knows more about that. If you could blend Chomsky and Ken Wilber, that would be nice. So, yes, what Marx leaves out is the role of military industrial technology and the advancement of capitalism. It's an incredible oversight. And if I was Marx's, PhD supervisor, I would have failed him on this. I would have said, great descriptions of poverty, Marx, great stuff. Bit too much waffle on the Hegelian role of exchange, in relation to capital formation. Far too much waffle there. And you've left out War and Peace, mate. Go away and rewrite the whole thing. Because Marx totally left out the fact that it was the military industrial complex that was making all the inventions, that was pushing the Industrial Revolution. The steam engine was hijacked by the military industrial elites who then used it to power the trains that made World War I possible. That was a war fought with a steam engine by mass mobilization of troops. And the machine gun and the aeroplane and the gas bombs and the tank, these are all the great so-called, inventions of technological breakthrough. And Marx doesn't foresee them, he doesn't really understand, even though he'd witnessed the American Civil War, which had just invented the machine gun, and in which more people died per square acre and per square minute of battle, per minute of battle, than ever any field of human conflict before, because of the machine gun. So Marx should have realised that, hey, this thing about capital and money, yeah, they're creating wars, because the amazing profits that they can generate. So no, that needs to be done. Somebody needs to go back over Marx and add in the missing pieces. I'm doing what I can as a peace writer, peace scholar, peace academic. I need some help here. Then we need to include the green thinkers. Dear old Caroline Lucas, I'm so glad you got re-elected yesterday by my hometown of Brighton, the one really brilliant, little light on the board of Britain. Thank you, people of Brighton, for voting Caroline Lucas in Brighton Pavilion. And thank you for voting the Labour man into my old home of Kemp Town. And we need the green perspective on the planetary emergency that we're facing, because the other thing Marx kind of didn't emphasise enough is that capital has a devastating effect and impact on the environment. You see, the corporations that have become the great superpowers of the world, who have more money at their disposal than most countries, most of them are based either in the US or many of them based in the UK, have absolutely scant regard for the environmental impact of their profit-seeking activities. And they do a bit of window dressing, Shell or whatever will have some nice, adverts about we're saving the tiger, whilst they're destroying the environment of Nigeria or whatever to get their oil. So the green perspective on what capital has been doing behind the scenes since Marx finished Das Kapital is very important. And I've followed E.F. Schumacher's tradition, Barbara Ward, and all the other green thinkers, Jonathan Porritt, who was a friend of mine back in the old days when I was a environmental philosopher with my friend John Francis Phipps, who set up the Spirituality Working Group in the Green Party. And I set up the Global Green University. That's why I've done that. So this is an appeal to anyone with a realisation. Much as I respect these kids that go and lie down in the City of London to try and stop the system, and my daughter was among them. I'm very proud of these Extinction Rebellion types. Actually, we have to do the thinking to stop this extinction that's looming. The vote yesterday in Parliament shows shockingly how the green perspective is ignored by the oligarchical system when its interests are threatened. We all know as Greens that staying in the European Union is better for nature, better for the environment. I live in the middle of France. I'm surrounded by the most exquisite nature here. I love nature and I'm at one with it as a Druid. And I lament deeply the fact that we have such an unfair political system that gives one Green Party seat in spite of a vast number of votes. And so we also need the liberal thinkers to integrate into a common platform intellectually. I'm only an intellectual, I'm not a political activist. I can't organise how this would look on paper, but I can make recommendations. But I can say that unless the Labour Party and its thinkers, unless the Green Party and its thinkers, and unless the Liberal Democrats and their thinkers come together in a sort of alliance of intellectually aware people, as well as the progressive SNP in Scotland, who are completely fed up with Westminster-based capitalism as an entire project, and Plaid Cymru, who are the same, until they all come together into a reform intellectual alliance, and I'm happy to organise that, if nobody else will. We need an integral think tank. I don't know, let's call it the Green Fabian Liberal Society or something. We need like a Fabian society that will encompass all these trends and bring us together intellectually so that we can oppose both the strategy and the tactics of the Conservatives, because they are ruthless and they're so wealthy it's just a joke. We don't have a chance otherwise, because and these people will be running the planet until World War III breaks out, which is, I think, probably on their agenda. I think some of these people are that nasty. And World War III is going to be fought as largely a data information war. It's a propaganda war. It's already started, in effect, and they're fighting it. If you listen to Boris Johnson addressing the UN, that's what he was saying. He said, Britain is going to win World War III because we have the best IT in the world. It was a warning to the rest of the world. Well, that is sheer arrogance and hubris, because what we should be doing is winning the peace. And I'm, with the intellectuals of the planet trying to work for peace. So let's integrate the Green perspective, the Socialist perspective, the Liberal Dem perspective, the SNP and Plaid Cymru perspective, the Irish perspective of Sinn Fein, the SDLP and the Alliance Party. And let's just accept that there will be a United Ireland now. They've earned it. There must be an independent Scotland. They've earned it. And, there may be some kind of new constitution for the UK as a whole. And it would have to have a totally different constitution. Okay, I want to end with my final point, which is, speaking as a philosopher here, there's never no hope. Don't be too despondent or despairing at this election result. I've tried to explain some of the good news. Truth takes a very long time to filter through the layers and layers of lies. Let's think of us in a cave in prehistoric Pyrenees, and the truth is like the water slowly trickling down. Takes a very long time, and as Nietzsche said, this struggle, this grosse politik, is the struggle between truth and lies. The lies won yesterday convincingly because they're so expert at lying, and because not enough people are speaking the truth and opposing them, as I'm doing. So please spread the word. I'm speaking also on behalf of the European branch of the World Intellectual Forum, which is a gathering for the intellectuals of the planet, because we're up against it in many countries, not just in the UK, where we're struggling, but in the US, where they have a similar phenomenon with Trump and this neo-right-wing racist kind of ideology that Trump stands for. And again, this fascist kind of takeover of their constitution. They're having a fight back in the form of the impeachment process, which is rigorous and robust, because they have a written constitution. Because the president's broken the law, they can get him. And I believe he will be gone from power shortly, which will be a victory for the causes of liberalism around the planet. And Thomas Jefferson will be, applauding from the heavenly spheres. So I'm off to India tomorrow, in fact. This is my farewell for a while, to attend the conference of the International Conference of Peace and Nonviolent Action. This is organised by the Jain community of India. I love the Jains. They've been arguing for peace and non-violence since the creation of this universe. They've always had a Tirthankara on the job. The Tirthankara is the one that can cross the ford between this world of suffering and Nirvana, which is the place of integral awareness, Kaivalya Jnana, it's called in the Jain Prakrit. And as a philosopher of comparative religion, I've met Jain sages and masters and talked with them about the nature of enlightenment. How can we get world peace? Well, actually only through enlightenment. That means individually, each one of us has to wake up. And when you do, I assure you, you will be not supporting these mendacious, deceitful, oligarchical forces that think they won control of Britain and Parliament yesterday. But actually, it's simply smoke and mirrors. It's a delusion. The authentic voices of Britain are the dissidents, those that want to stay in the European Union, that love Europe, that love nature, that love all the multi-textured and multi-traditional coloured nations that we are, the Celtic nations, from Cornwall to Ireland to Northern Ireland to Scotland and so on, and Wales. We will win, but you know it's a victory that is going to take a long time, and it was set back yesterday. My contribution is to do the thinking through of how we get that victory, which is what the word Jain means. Jain is the victor, the one that achieves enlightenment over their own negative fears, hatreds, delusions. You know, we all have demons, as Mary Magdalene knew well from her gospel, which I've done a commentary on. We're going to have some Mary Magdalene conferences next year to try and penetrate, like Megan Watterson says, you know, what are these climates of despair that come upon us? Well, how can we get free of them? That was what Jesus taught Mary Magdalene. That's what we have to learn as a people in the UK. This fight is not over yet. I'm very disappointed that the People's Vote people seem to have just collapsed and said, well, that's it, they've won. We're not going to campaign for a People's Vote anymore. I think that's wrong. I think the majority of people of Britain still want to remain in the European Union, and we should use every democratic means at our disposal. We should get from Parliament the evidence of Russian interference that Boris Johnson suppressed before the election. All the people that lost their seats yesterday should stay active in the Remain movement. We should still organise for a second independence referendum. And if enough evidence is found of skullduggery and cheating by the Boris Johnson cabal, and can be found out through legal pursuits, then I think he would be forced to resign. The things he's done are actually illegal, in my opinion. And although the facade is very sweet and bon ami and all that, I have evidence personally that a friend of mine might have been murdered for his anti-Brexit activities. And I've been trying to get that before the police for a long time. But the police have been in collusion in suppressing the facts. And Boris Johnson was himself personally possibly implicated in that murder. And, that's one case I know personally that impacted on my life. And there may be others. So, yeah, I think we have to stay absolutely 100% committed to this opposition to Brexit and to this Boris Johnson cabal that have taken power through manipulating the election, through manipulating the media, and through not sharing the truth. I will be in India just for a week or so, meeting with this conference, and also hosting or holding the World Intellectual Forum gathering. So anyone that wants to get involved, I can only share a little bit in these talks, and I want more active engagement, get involved, set up a talking group in your town, share these videos, tell your friends to listen. This is a struggle for wisdom in the teeth of this organised ignorance. What the Conservative Party is, let's call it organised ignorance. And that's what the media are running, So anyway, let's oppose that with organised wisdom and organised love. And that is called philosophy, my friends, the term invented by Pythagoras. So anyway, philosophical greetings to you all. And don't be despondent. We will win in the end, and you will win. Thank you.